Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Wealth Boot Camp, and I wanted to talk for a second about something that I saw in the news. I'm not really into trying to get into gossip and all this stuff about other people's lives and what people are doing, but I needed to talk about this with you today because I feel like it's something that's important to discuss, especially for young brothers and sisters as well, who are in the process of making important life decisions that are going to stay with you for many years after you make those decisions. This has to do with love, the attraction that you feel toward other people, the very natural desire you might have sex, to make babies, to do all of that stuff. And it really comes to mind because I just saw this story with the rapper DMX, and everybody knows, anybody who knows anything about when DMX was actually big, they know that he was very talented. He was one of the biggest guys in the game. He pretty much had the whole world laid out in front of him. He was actually on track to become one of the most successful artists of all time, black, white, hip hop or not. And it kind of derailed. One of the biggest things that really got to him was this drug addiction, which he talks about. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Tyson in terms of being one of those guys that makes decisions that you don't understand. But when you hear him talk, you see a sense of kind of remorse, a hope for redemption. You really want to root for the guy. But then you'll read about him in the news doing something else that makes you say, "Man, what's going on?" So, in fact, when I think about the three entertainers who've messed up, who thrown away the most, if you want to call it thrown away, or who kind of derailed and nobody understands what happened, I think about DMX, Mike Tyson, and Lauryn Hill. Those are three at the top that come to mind immediately in terms of people that just kind of had the whole world laid out in front of them, and for whatever reason were not able to get on the right path, or get back on the right path. And all three of them actually continuously made comebacks because there were always people that believed in them. There were always people who said, okay, if they just have this one little thing that can get them right back on track, if they have a little more support, they can get there. They learn from their mistakes, and it just never happened. I mean, in every single case, something else would occur, and people would say, "Man, like, what's going on?" So, anyway, without digging into DMX too much, I can see also that his son was out, selling his albums on eBay and all this other stuff, his platinum records, which I thought was just kind of crazy. I'm not judging it, but it is interesting. It is chickens coming home to roost. And here's what I want to share with you as a black man who's lived a little bit of life, maybe a little more than you. But I don't pretend like I know everything, so don't think that that's where this is coming from. This is really coming in the form of friendly, supportive advice and information and thoughts, because all of this ties to your quality of life in the long term, not just in terms of family, but also in terms of wealth. When I look at DMX, for example. Not only do I see a guy who kind of allowed bad choices, maybe a little arrogance to cause him to throw it all away, but I see a person that has lost so many millions of dollars, with this drug addiction. Also, with this thing that he has with women in terms of making babies that he can't really take care of. You see this happen a lot. The easiest way for a brother to go broke is to have a bunch of kids out of wedlock. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I mean, that is the easiest way to go broke. I mean, if you want to be running from the cops your whole life, if you want to have all your shit just constantly get derailed and have people constantly messing with you, and DMX got arrested when he was trying to go on stage, so he's trying to get out there, trying to get his money, but yet these decisions from the past are catching up with him because he owes $400,000 in child support. This is a constant pattern. This happens to a lot of people. You can go back 100 years and you'll see situations where black men got in trouble with either child support courts or the IRS, particularly entertainers and athletes who threw money away when they had it, but these financial decisions caught up with them later, and they were never able to get back on track because every time you're out here trying to make money, they know where you at. They know you're giving a concert on Saturday, so the cops will be waiting at the concert. Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, who was one of the greatest fighters of all time before Muhammad Ali. Every time he kept trying to fight to get money to pay the IRS was already waiting for him at the boxing arena to take away whatever money he made. So your ability to move forward and build a new life is almost completely mitigated because you've got these old decisions that are catching up with you. I see guys that will have 3 or 4 kids with 3 or 4 different women in their 20s, and then when they get 40, they try to get married and have a family, but they can't do that because these other decisions you made, these other families you created, are coming back and asking for their piece of the pie. Entertainers and athletes get it worse because you're seen as a person that just has so much money that everybody can kind of latch on to you and get a piece of that. And then so when you open yourself up to that, don't just understand that if somebody's expecting you to take care of them at level 10 when you're making 10 million a year, they're going to expect level 10 support when you're making half a million a year. So when I look at this, what I really see is a couple of things. Number one, when you talk about wealth building, which I think every black man in America needs to think deeply about building wealth, building his own opportunities, learning to run his own business, all these things that we talk about on shows like The Breakfast Club or any other show that I go on. I mean, that's what I'm always about. I'm not about begging white folks to take care of you. I don't think that is a good long-term strategy for us as black people. Any black man who's thinking about long-term mental health, long-term prosperity, long-term success has to think carefully about the women that he spends his time with and where he plants his seed and how he creates his family. If you create your family in a sloppy way, you're going to have some sloppy situations. It's like if I'm trying to draw you a portrait and I just get on this piece of paper and I just say, oh, I feel like making a strike like this. I feel like making a mark like that. I feel like scribbling a little bit, and I just keep doing that. And I do that a little bit every day. Well, when I'm finally done and you go back and you look at what I've created, you can't even see that really. It's gonna look like a mess. It's gonna look like a mess. Why? Because I designed it to be a mess. I designed it by not thinking carefully about every stroke, not thinking carefully about every decision, not thinking carefully about every move I make. So when I get done, I want my life to look like a masterpiece, but it ends up looking like a bunch of sloppy scribbles on a piece of paper. And so sometimes that's what you'll see when you see guys just, oh, she looks good, I'm gonna go hit it, and guys just having baby after baby with woman after woman, or women having baby after baby with man after man. About 90% of the time, those people end up in poverty. Why? Because kids are expensive. It costs $250,000 to raise one child. So if you have 6 or 7 kids, you're talking about millions of dollars in financial commitments. People are afraid to handle a $200,000 mortgage. Every time you have a baby, that's another $250,000 mortgage. That's like buying another $250,000 house that you're going to have to pay a mortgage on for the next 18 years. So when you have a bunch of kids in a bunch of different households, that's like having a house in California that you got to pay for, a house in New York you got to pay for, a house in Mississippi you got to pay for. And so you're trying to pay for all these houses, and you try to do all that. You can't get an apartment because you got to pay the mortgage on 3 or 4 different houses all across the country. So when I think about this, when I look at this, I want guys to understand the importance of making these good choices while you're young. Understand, when I look at DMX and I see his son just lashing out, what I really see is a son who's never been taught to have any respect for his father. Part of that might be on the mother, but part of that seems to be on the father as well. You can't make decisions when your children are young and allow or not expect that one day these kids are not going to grow up and then look back and reflect on the fact that you were not really there for them the way you could have, should have, would have been. And I don't want to get into the gender war. See, a lot of people want to blame everything on black men and want to say, oh, well, the reason these kids don't have daddies is because black men are trifling. No, there's a lot of trifling black women out there. Remember, every trifling black man had to have somebody help him make that baby. So when you slept with that man, you did make a decision in that context too. So nobody's off the hook in any of this, but it's not about pointing the fingers. It's really about looking at the whole picture. The whole picture says that if you make these dumbass decisions while you're young, your life is going to be a mess. You will be running from the cops. You'll never have a chance to build anything because every time you build a little bit, somebody's going to come after you. And it can be even worse for entertainers and athletes for 2 reasons. One, because when you are making that money, you're in your 20s, you feel like you're on top of the world, you are going to be tempted to have a certain type of financial arrogance where you say, oh, it doesn't matter. I have my 7th baby, but I can afford it because I'm making $2 million a year playing for the Cowboys. But what happens when you're not playing for the Cowboys anymore? Do you have other options that'll let you make $2 million a year? Check this out. A lot of brothers get done playing sports, and they get done when their entertainment careers are over. Some of them end up actually dealing drugs because for some of them, being a drug dealer is the only way they can make the kind of money they made when they were playing sports. Do you have an education? Do you have training? Do you have a business? Do you have other things set up that are going to provide income for you when that white man stops writing that check for you? If the answer is no, then you've got to think more carefully and make a plan. When I see DMX's life, I see a really talented black man who just did make a plan. His plan was, I still remember a video, and I'd love to find this video so you can see it. I remember seeing this, and I saw this. I remember I was in my 20s when, or maybe 30s, early 30s when I saw this. But it was a video where DMX said something like, he said he was talking about what he does on tour, and he said we smoke all day, fuck all night. And I'm like, is that your life plan? Smoke all day, fuck all night. If that's your life plan, then guess what's going to happen? Two things. One, you're going to have an addiction to drugs, which is already very expensive. It's going to mess up your wealth. Number two, you're going to have a bunch of kids and maybe some STDs to go with it. So you're going to have a real messy life, a messy situation. So when you decide to settle down and live a normal life, you won't be able to do that because you're going to have all these past decisions coming back to haunt you every single day of your life. And believe me, you got a lot of living to do after the age of 35. So don't sit here and think that that you're going to die young and all that and won't have to worry about that. No, there's a good chance you're going to live a long time, and you'll spend the next 40 years in complete misery because of some decisions that were made over a 10-year period. So once again, I didn't want to get into this whole condemnation of DMX. I'm not trying to do that. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the fact that he was introduced to drugs at an early age. I think that played a huge role in him not being able to really have himself under control. I think that he's his worst enemy in that I think he fights a lot of internal demons. One of the reasons I tell black men all the time, and I'm telling you this as well, is the avoidance of drugs and alcohol is one of the most important things you can do as a black man. Malcolm X used to say that the white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then lock you up for being drunk. Well, guess what the white man did do in America? The white man, I'm talking about the institutions built on white supremacy, they planted drugs in black communities and then arrested black men for holding the drugs that were planted in their communities. We didn't grow the cocaine in the hood. We did not make the guns in the hood. But black men are at the top of the list when it comes to going to prison for drugs and guns. So a lot of what we're dealing with was kind of planted on us. So there's responsibility to go all the way around. But what I want to say is, if I'm talking to you and you're my son or you're my little brother or you're my friend, the thing I would tell you is a couple things. Number one, drugs and alcohol. Drugs, alcohol, and gambling actually, drugs, alcohol, sex, and gambling are the four things that tend to get black men into trouble the most. Not black men, men, period. Not just black men. Drugs are expensive. Drugs cause you to do things that you would not want to do. A lot of drug addicts will lie to you because they're really lying to themselves. Like, they'll tell you, I promise you I'm going to pay you back, or I promise you I'm going to be more responsible. And they really sound authentic because they are authentic. They mean it. But what happens is the drugs take over a part of your brain where you get to a point where it's a lot of your decisions, you just can't even make them anymore. You don't have control over who you are and what you do. And also, a lot of guys go to prison. This is an untold story, but a lot of guys go to prison for things they do while they're high and while they're drunk. So when you put yourself in a situation where you're out of control, you're vulnerable. You see, society pushes you to do that. Go out, get high, get drunk, get whatever, get fucked up. Well, you know what? A lot of guys get messed up like that, and they do things that cause them to get 80-year prison sentences. So I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd want to wake up in a jail cell, find out I'm going to get 80 years in prison for something I don't even remember doing. So drugs and alcohol, bad move. Another piece of advice: be real cautious about what you do in terms of sex. Yes, men like sex. Sex is very natural. I'm not judging you when you think about sex. Every species on the planet has sex. So we're not going to get into all that. But I can tell you that with that power comes a lot of responsibility. While you're young, you're the young athlete, you're the young entertainer. Sometimes that makes it even worse because the temptations are everywhere. Women are flocking towards you. Opportunities are abundant, right? Especially if you're a black man that has things going on. So many black men are in prison that when you are a black man that has a little bit of money, maybe a little bit of education, maybe a little bit of status, you're going to have all different kinds of opportunities to have sex. But and while I'm not telling you what to do with those opportunities, I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are falsely accused of rape because they mess with the wrong woman, or upset the wrong woman. There are a lot of black men who end up with babies that they didn't plan to have, diseases they didn't plan to have, and just situations that cause them to that mess up what they're trying to do. Like the guy told Chris Rock in that movie, I can't remember what the movie was called, but he told his character, he said, you can lose a lot of money chasing women, but you'll never lose women chasing money. So I'm not telling you to chase money or not to chase women, but I am going to say that bad decisions when it comes to the opposite sex are one of the greatest reasons for people destroying their wealth, destroying their future, destroying their opportunities. And I think the DMX situation is a perfect template for understanding that your chickens do come home to roost. abuse. Your decisions do catch up with you, good or bad. So just make good choices. That's all I want to say. And this is for everybody, male, female, young, old, anybody listening. I hope that this is helpful to you. It's not meant to be judgmental towards you or toward DMX or anybody else. It's just here to lay out the facts and to tell you the truth. Just some stuff that you won't get on TV, you won't get on the radio, but you'll get it here because my goal is to be honest with you. All right, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Wealth Boot Camp. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.